Afternoon, Mr. Chair, honorable members of the House of Representatives, fellow public servants, fellow IP rights advocates, IP partners, and stakeholders in the creative industry. Mapian mapon kaniyo langon. I am Jennifer P. Sibug-Las, Central Mindanao Commissioner of the NCIP, an IP rights advocate, as well as a fashion lover of the indigenous fabrics interface with modern design, but with certain conditions. Slide, please. Last Saturday, I was in Lake Cebu, South Cotabato, where I slept, dined, walked with the grandkids of Langdulay, Gawad ng Manlilikanang Bayan, and listened to their narratives, which up to this time gave me more inspiration to speak for and in behalf of the people with, I think, this people has a dying culture impacted by technology, modernization, and insensitivity. Next slide. This afternoon, I am going to present to you an overview of what NCIP, or the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, is doing to protect and promote the rights of and welfare of the indigenous peoples. Next slide, please. And this is as regards also the indigenous fabric of our fellow IPs. So, Republic Act 8371, or the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997, or the IPRA, was an act to recognize, protect, and promote the rights of the indigenous cultural communities, indigenous peoples, creating a National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, establishing implementing mechanisms, appropriating funds therefore, and for other purposes. This law was enacted during the time of the late of then former Speaker De Venecia, who was the father of Congressman Toff, and NCIP's mandate shall be. It is the primary government agency that shall formulate and implement plans and programs for the promotion and the protection of the rights of the indigenous peoples, as well as their well-being, giving due regard to their beliefs, customs, traditions, and institutions. Next slide. Now, my presentation will be presented in this manner. First is the profile of the indigenous cultural communities, or the indigenous peoples. Next is the traditional attire of the indigenous peoples. Third is the IP fabrics. Fourth is the requirements of IP fabric use or designs. Fifth is the challenges NCIP is facing on fashion and use of fabrics. Number 6 is the data on fashion and textile industries. And last is the proposed projects of the National Commission on Peoples 2020. Next slide, please. The profile of the indigenous cultural communities in the Philippines. We have 7 ethnographic regions, mainly CAR and Region 1. Next is island groups and the rest of Visayas. Third is the Region 3 and the rest of Luzon. And then we have, I forgot, Region 2. And then we have also Southern and Eastern Mindanao. We have Central Mindanao and the Northern and Western Mindanao. All in all, we already have documented at least 101 of IP groups the entire country, and marami pa pong iba na kailangan pa po naming document. Next slide, please. So all of the 101 or more indigenous peoples number to 14,184,645 IP population in the Philippines, comprising 16% of the total population of the country. In Mindanao, we have 63%, which is 8,936,326 of the population. And then we have in Luzon, we have 34%. And in Visayas, we only have 3%. And that is 425,540 of the IP population. This was the projected IP population using the 2007 annual population rate of 2.16 provided by then National Statistics Office, or NSO. Based on the DSW data, the number of IP beneficiaries of Social Amelioration Program, or SAP, for fiscal year 2020 total to 20 million individuals, or 750,000 families. Next slide. First, I'm going to present to you an Ivatan traditional attire of the indigenous peoples. These are from the IP group of Luzon. So this clothing creation of the Ivatan IP group in Batanes, so much of the cultural inspirations that is minimalist is suitable to social functions and events that women of rank usually perform. The male is clad in a conventional barong type upper garment made from the kacha cloth to substitute the traditional cotton cloth produced by the ancestor and woven in the tinon. The off and white natural color is accented by the various designs made from popular early Ivatan bark cloth from the fiber tree, avutug, and a rope-like thread of fiber tree called hanot, running from top to bottom, create impression of height. Similarly, for female, this creation is made from the same material. Next slide, please. From the Visayas island, we have the panubok, a kind of Bukidnon indigenous embroidery. Panubok, from the word tubok, is a traditional embroidery passed from generations of Pangayanon, Panay, Bukidnon, and the indigenous cultural communities of Tapas, Capiz, an art form woven whose patterns, designs, and shapes reflect the objects from the environment where the Panay, Bukidnon, ICC's IPs draw their inspiration from. The designs and the patterns are incorporated on their traditional cloths, bracelets, headdress, and many more. This surviving art has been passed on from many generations and is still learned by the younger ones of Panay. Next slide, please. The next traditional attire would come from the Blaan of Mindanao. They're perhaps the most artistic among the IPs in the Philippines. Their love for ornate designs and colors is manifested in the materials they create, such as body ornaments, jewelry, weapons, tools, and containers. Weaving, embroidery, and beadwork take most of the time of women, and young girls eagerly learn from their mothers and grandmothers. Prior to the introduction of cotton textiles, they use a clothing material called tabi. Kanina, yung speaker po made mention also of tabi, which is a woven abaca fibers dyed with tree extracts. Their women wear heavy brass belts with brass tassels ending in tiny brass belts that herald their approach even in quiet distance. Blaan men wear an embroidered long sleeve top called saul and a handmade trouser called sawal or salwal. Women wear albong or lubong, a long sleeve top clothing made of cloth and cross-stitch embroidery matched with malong skirts called kot. Blaan also use agem or mat for sleeping, which is now popular and for as gifts for special visitors or guests. In the olden days, this mat is used to wrap the cadaver of the dead. It is made using a pandan variety called romblon or for the information of everyone, the Blaan IP group is very particular of their identity. So even the spelling and the pronunciation, we have to spell it the way it should be. Like it should not be spelled as Bilaan or Blaan. It should be spelled as Blaan and pronounced as Blaan. And they would also say that their tabi should not be used as what do you call this, as materials for footwear, because they say that this is some sort of a discrimination, or it would be derogatory of their indigenous identity. Next slide, please. We also have the Tiboli, an IP group located in South Cotabato. This ethnic group can be easily identified through its tinala cloth, as it is uniquely and distinctly Tiboli. It is made from very fine abaca fibers with very tedious process from a stripping down of the fibers to bed, tying, which defines the design. Fabric tells a story using patterns such as buling langit or clouds and kabangi or butterfly kirkens, the Tivoli distinct past. It is an art form rich in ritual and steeped in meaning, creating a unique beauty of which we can call and be proud of. The Kegal Tanalak Tahasoong is a long-sleeved tinala cloth worn by the datu of the community during special occasions like festivals and community gatherings, coupled with the suwal was traditional lower garment made of tinala cloth made by male Kegal Nasif is a traditional female garment worn during special occasions, also partnered with the lewek, which is the general term of the ankle length, a tube skirt which is open in both sides, usually wrapped firmly around the woman's waist. Next slide. Next slide, please. So these are the traditional fabrics of Langdulay of the Tiboli tribe of Lake Cebu. Ayan po, nakikita natin yung 18 inches natin. The price would be 800 per meter. And next slide, please. And po, 18 inches. Ito naman yung 800 din per meter. And as you can see in the photo, that is Cebulang Dulay, the traditional successor of the late Lang Dulay, who was the Gamaba awardee. And next slide, please. Ito naman po, galing naman to sa mga Blaan IP group from Maricel Casaligan of Sarangani. The price of their ibong-sla or their beaded blouse is 4,500. And then, ayan po, nakita nyo, may takmun din, embroidered mother pearls blouse at 7,500. Dito naman sa long sleeves ng ating male, 4,005 naman yung kanilang embroidered top. So, yan po. Next slide, please. Sa north naman, we have Benguet. Ayan, nakikita natin yung different traditional attires. We just did not include the prices of the attires represented here. But next slide, please. And these are also IP textile and fabrics coming from the north. Next slide, please. And ito naman yung Blaan fabric used as balabal. Then yung sayakan kanina na nabigay din na example kanina nung speaker natin from the DTI, yung sinuluan. Next slide, please. A lot of our fashion designers would sometimes not go through traditional protocols because they think that the engagement with our indigenous peoples or artisans are very difficult to achieve. But 2000, I think it was in 2017, the Designers Circle Philippines came up with a very amazing fashion show entitled Biyaya ng Kat. There were at least 10 designers really went through the process of going through seeking permission at the IP groups of South Cotabato and North Cotabato. And in fact, before designing them and after designing them, even show their designs to the community for the fashion show, just to consult from them if their designs were appropriate and proper for the indigenous peoples to appreciate. So there were traditional protocols, and there was credit or provenance, and there was also consideration or prize given to the indigenous peoples or the creators of this indigenous fabric. Next slide, please. So I'd like to discuss the requirements of IP fabric use and designs. First, we have to remember always that there are protocols that we need to consider. First, we have to seek permission from the creator or community for the purpose of the use of the fabric. 2 weeks ago, GMA 7 in fact consulted NCIP that indeed they were coming up with a teleserye entitled Lolong, and that they consulted us and they wanted the indigenous peoples concerned that they would be apprised that they were going to use that certain IP group, but they didn't want to culturally misappropriate the cultural heritage of the people from Palawan. That's why they sought the permission and wanted to consult with the NCIP just so that they would, just to avoid being lambasted for being culturally misappropriating the cultural heritage of the IP group from Palawan. Next is provenance. Always attribute or credit your creation from the origin creator of the community or the fabric. Of course, we always give credit where credit is due. We have to acknowledge their origin. And then next is the price and royalties. Of course, when we engage with creators and communities, we also help them flourish with you and using their designs and fabrics. In fact, I'm going to show you later. There's a collection in 2016 wherein a designer, um, his name is Oscar Metas Valit, during the Auckland's Spring Collection, 2016 collection. They were able to give royalties to the Ashaninka tribe for their 2016 collection. This is to heighten public awareness of the continued struggle of the indigenous peoples from that IP. And so it is not just corporate social responsibility for the company using the fabric, but it is also doing good business and positive potential using partnership between the designer as well as the creator. So next slide, please. Yeah, this one is the Biyaya ng Katutubo. This was in 2017 wherein we partnered with the Designer Circle Philippines. And then I'm just going to share also that prior to the fashion show, these designs were actually consulted to the IP group concerned so that they will be able to avoid misappropriation. So here we can see there's also a showcase of uh, the Victoria's Secret fashion show wherein Carly Kloss was also lambasted for using the sacred designs or sacred accessories of the native Indians of America. The headdress being worn by a tribal chieftain, which is very sacred and should not be used for fashion shows. Next slide, please. This is a footage I took from the traditional successor of Langdulay. Can we play it, please? Dito sa nagmanufacture, dito sa naghimo. So unsang iyahang pangalas, unsa iyahang kanang tawag na, unsa iyahang pang dili pang pas ano unsa iyang tan-aw. Oo.
Tukod na question man. I-explain ko muna yeah. Tukod ginaman ma'am kahit ba kawan tanalak na de moyo ko kom abadu gonon guto tanalak na mo abadu luwat ba takam ko to design to amin ang sakdang tuno moyo ko kom katunulad la amin ang maprint la dam no li subak kam lamun yo kom sawo dam tulad tanalak no du kom kaganon du moyo ko kom du ngalo famila amin yo ta amo ako an famila to ka question sige na ma'am tuso ka
ko bele udah o ba tanala kawotan ba kumaando to bem ba yung tao tagana ito kani la fakayan kan mo to ni ko la na yung put na mo kama tanala la fakayan ka hano to ni kam aman ni kam nas ni yusukon kama ko ma la do taganay hal ba krungan bunang gulambot kuno man do ni kamaan ni yung put na ma kun kan hulong tabali yung ma tanalak lamgot bakrungan ako ba uras ni kata lamgot yung put kama tanalak paghogo ta ba nila fakayan ma
ay ang sabi daw po ni nanay nag-umpisa yung paggawa ng tinalak dahil sa kailang dulay yung lahat ng mga pattern is galing sa kanyang dream kaya tinatawag siya na dream weaver. Tapos ang sabi ni nanay pag may nagawa sila na tinalak hindi pwede siya kumbaga ano lang sa tela kasi bihira lang kasi yan. Pinaghirapan nila yan tapos sila, nagpipicture lang sila tapos ilagay sa tela. Hindi po pwede sa amin. Tapos yung bagalubuhan kayo, questionan mo ba yung taydes kaganamam do bele em ko kom tu kan yusu kan ka to belay mas lu famila kay sa uuma do nga lao famila kom.
Sidak bele
Ang sinasabi daw ni nanay ma'am, kumbaga yung nagpa-print, sila yung may pera, sila yung may kita. halimbawa kay nanay, within 4 months, saka makatapos yung 6 meters, matatapos nila within 4 months, saka sila magkapera. Tapos yung iba naman, nagpa-print sila lang yung madali na may kita sila, may pera sila. Tapos sabi ni nanay, hindi daw pwede sa amin na, kumbaga, ilagay lang sa print. Balang araw, baka wala nang bibili ng tinalak, puro print na lang ang ano nila. Paano nakita yung mga tribo? Pag ganun, hindi po pwede sa amin. Yun lang po at maraming salamat.
Ipaila-ila daw siya.
Next slide, please. So, Mr. Chair, these are the challenges NCIP is facing on fashion and the use of fabrics and design. First, of course, is the misappropriation, the taking and using of the indigenous IP designs and fabrics without the consent of the creator of the community. A lot of misappropriations are being experienced as of this time. Maraming gumagamit ng mga disenyo ng ating mga katutubo na hindi sila nagpapaalam, kaya hindi nila alam na sagrado po yung mga bagay o mga fabric na ginagamit nila. Ang minsan po ay fabric pa yon na ginagamit sa patay. So, yung binabalot po sa patay. And so, minsan pag nakikita na ng ating mga community ay nagagalit po sila bakit yung mga disenyo o yung mga fabrics na pinanggamit doon sa fashion ay indeed ay ginagamit namin sa mga ritual na para sa mga pambalot nga doon sa mga patay namin. And then second, we also have misuse. Yung nagpaalam, there is a presence of protocols or consent, but used in a manner not intended by the creator or the community. Marami dyan, nagpapaalam sila na gamitin sa fashion or sa pageant. Ang problema, pag ginamit na nila, nakabikini, tapos for example, yung sa top na sagrado naman ng ang blouse, tapos gagamitan mo ng bikini sa baba, marami ring reports na dumadating sa amin ng misuse. So, kailangan din namin talagang tutukan ito because of course we are trying to protect their cultural heritage, and marami sa ating IPs very sensitive pagdating sa kanilang mga bagay na mga accessories natin, mga kagamitan na matagal na nila itong parang inheritance mga ito na isinalin lang from generations to generations, tapos makikita nila sa publiko na ginagamit not in its proper use. And then next is yung challenge sa NCIP naman, yung how can we able to help ating mga indigenous people sa promote ng kanilang mga products and kanilang merchandise. We know that sa merchandise distribution natin at saka sa marketplace natin, Mr. Chair, karamihan ng ating artisans are located in the remote areas wherein they are not able to reach talaga yung mga marketplaces sa urban areas, especially dito sa Manila, kung nasaan po talaga yung target market natin. So, yun po, Mr. Chair. So, next slide, please. These are the data also we gathered from seven regional offices, and ano to, iba-ibang communities to. Nakuha namin yung how many artisans in our AOR dun sa specific region na yon. Ano ba yung mga products na ginagawa ng mga artisans natin? We also have market for IP fabric and prices. And then yung monthly income nila, tapos monthly number of customers, and their initial capital, and yung question if all the designs ba are sacred, and what can be used for fashion. So we were able to gather this data, Mr. Chair, and anyways, nandito naman po ito, and we will be submitting this presentation to your honorable office po. So next slide, please. Again, this data, we were able to gather this from 7 regional offices from Luzon to Mindanao. Next slide, please. So the summary of the data gathered from the 7 regions were, so how many artisans all over the Philippines? So meron kaming locate na 309 artisans. And then yung products naman nila would range from blazers, blouses, chaleco, tunics, skirts, malong, headdress, belt, tinalak, necklace, towel, mats, and other accessories. Then market prices, market or prices ng kanilang products would be, for the fabrics, the price ranges from 350, karamihan dito yung mga headdress, to 2,000 per meter yung sa ating fabric. And then next is yung monthly income nila. Based on the maximum declared monthly income ng ating mga artisans, meron silang 142,540. And then the initial capital also is based on the maximum declared initial capital is 1.2 1,263,300. And then are all products sacred? What can be used as fashion? Most of the products are sacred, of course. Minsan meron pa mga IP groups, ayaw nila mini-mix and match yung kanilang mga designs. Pag yung original yung top, kailangan din sana yung sa baba, ano rin, yung talagang kasama rin siya dun sa traditional attire. Hindi siya pwedeng i-match sana sa iba. And then some cannot be traded, but some may be used for fashion, provided that they are used properly or the product is just an IP inspired. Next slide, please. So ayan, we have this graphics showing yung based on the data we gathered from the regional offices. So ito yung mga products, and then we have the market for IP fabric and their prices. The next slide, please. And their initial capital per region, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then yun nga, ang summary is they have 1,263,300 based on the maximum of the declared initial capital. Next slide, please. Are all designs sacred? What can be used for fashion? Sabi ng car, sabi niya, sacred lahat ng disenyo or ng fabrics. Some attires with correct designs can be used naman for fashion. Sa Region 1, sacred din, pero regular designs may be utilized for fashion, dresses, gowns, and coats. Region 9 naman, for the community, each specific design is sacred to them. But for some instances, they can also rent, sell their products for cultural presentation, provided that products are used properly. Region 10 naman, no. There are no sacred designs. And then especially the necklaces and accessories. In Region 12, sacred, but can be used for fashion and those IP-inspired made products. Region 13 naman, if ritual was conducted and if there is a consent from the cultural master, the craft may then be sold and shared to the public. However, there are patterns which cannot be shared to the public and are personal to the artist. Next slide, please. For the proposed projects of NCIP in 2022, Chair 2, for Region 9, we have production of Kalibugan, inspired attire for marketing in Sirawai proper, Sirawai, Zamboanga del Norte. That project cost is 150,000. I want to read everything already. Next slide, please. Ayan, may Region 11 din tayo, traditional attire making of the Ubo Manubo ICCs in the Baguio district of Davao City, and then support to IP women weaving in Malita, and then Region 13. Next slide, please. Lahat ng mga project proposals ng NCIP for 2022, ang project cost niya would amount to 7,149,000 pesos. And next slide, please. Ano po ba yung mga ways forward natin? Of course, number 1 is to forge partnership with Philippine Fashion Coalition, the FPC, through a memorandum of agreement. Next is craft guidelines on the proper use of IP fabrics and textiles. And then lastly is, of course, IP research. I just would like to mention also, yesterday we had a meeting with Ma'am Chiki Go. She's a corporate researcher, and we really appreciated her meaningful sharing to the NCIP, wherein she shared that about the artisanal fashion and how it can help also the communities flourish with their economies. Next po. We say that the cultural heritage of the indigenous peoples are non-negotiable because, of course, even if we have to protect their rights and their welfare, and give due regard to their customs, traditions, belief, and institutions. And that is provided for strictly under Section 39 of Republic Act 8371, otherwise known as the Indigenous Peoples' Rights of the Philippines. So before I end, may I please appeal to our fashion and creative industry partners to always bear in mind, hold dear in your hearts, and work with love with their hands to always remember the following principles when using IP fabrics and designs. First of course, is protocols. Next is provenance. Then lastly is the price and partnership with them and extending royalties to the creators or to the communities. Because in the end, success is not all about going far or how far you have reached in your profession uh, as creative industry workers, or how much you get out of your talent, but it's the happiness and the life and the inspiration you give to the people you are serving or would want to work with, and this case the indigenous people. So thank you very much, Congressman Tov. Thank you very much to everyone and for all the viewers who are watching this afternoon. I'd like to leave you with this clippings or footage coming from our IP children from Lake Cebu. Maraming salamat po, and okay.
Ni Karen Noyo teacher. Oo, Nicole Noyo police. Oo, Maris Noyo nurse. Maniha bang bakam tao, hobe laso batela yung batak tanalak. Abay sa anitla anlana kan hulong tabali. Di batak tanalak belah no batela.
Okay. Una sa lahat, good morning. Si Karen gusto niya maging teacher. Tapos si Nicole gusto niya maging police. Tapos si Maris gusto niya maging nurse. Ang ibig sabihin ng sinasabi nila kanina, dapat daw yung tinalak hindi pwede ilagay sa, yung tinalak hindi pwede gayahin, ilagay sa tela, yung mga disenyo. Kasi yung mga matatanda tapos yung gumagawa ng tinalak is nahihirapan sila, tapos yung ibang tao na pwede nilang gayahin tapos ilagay sa tela. Hindi po kami papayag. Tapos sa akin naman, kasi yan lang yung kayamanan namin na mga Tiboli tribe. Dapat hindi pwede na mawala. Dapat ipa-preserve namin. Pero kung gayahin nila sa tela, halos siguro wala na kami, wala na income, wala nang bibili kasi mas labaw yung sa tela kaysa yung sa tinalak na ginagawa ng mga Tiboli tribe. Kaya ang masasabi ko lang, please lang, wag nila gayahin yung mga design ng sa tinalak tapos ilagay sa tela. Please lang po. Yan lang yung masasabi ko.
Hangyo sa gobyerno.
Masasabi ko sa gobyerno, please lang atabangin mi sa among kultura. Kay basi mawala ning among kultura. Tapos hangyo lang namo sa mga tao, hindi lang pwede ibutang sa tela ang design sang tinalak.
Thank you, Congressman Tov.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was an excellent presentation, no? And I guess it was reaffirmed our suspicion, our theory as to why we're pursuing this creative industry policy, that there's a distinction between cultural heritage and creative industry. They are not one and the same. They are closely linked. They have intersections, but they have intersections, but they also have divergences, such as what was shared to us earlier by Jennifer.